stakeholder consultation workshop for the GEF-funded Capacity Building Initiatives for Transparency, CBIT project, titled Strengthening the Capacity of Institutions in Liberia to Comply with the Transparency Requirements of the Paris Agreement, CBIT Phase 2. This workshop marks an important step in the CBIT Phase 2 journey, an effort to help Liberia strengthen its ability to meet the transparency requirements of the Paris Agreement. It builds on what was started under CBIT 1, where Liberia made great progress in building the technical and institutional capacities for data collection and processing for greenhouse gas inventories, and in the formalization of institutional arrangements for the collection and management of data through the signing of cooperative agreements with 5 NDC sectors and the University of Liberia. With CBIT Phase 2, we want to take things even further, making sure Liberia is equipped to meet the requirements under the Paris Agreement's enhanced transparency framework and to track its progress on climate commitments. This work isn't just about technical systems, it's about people. At Conservation International, our mission is simple: nature for people. That means we believe protecting nature goes hand in hand with supporting communities, and it's something we reflect in all our projects. This project also supports Liberia's broader climate goals: Vision 2030, the National Climate Change Policy, the National Determined Contributions, and the National Adaptation Policy. We're very proud to be a part of that. We especially want to encourage inclusive participation. We believe that involving women, young people, the private sector and civil society are all critical in shaping how this project unfolds and succeeds. I also want to be clear, our support doesn't end with this project cycle. We're here for the long haul, ready to share our technical know-how, help attract more resources, and work closely with government and partners to find practical, lasting solutions. CI has been a GEF implementing agency since 2013. We have learned how to move with speed while delivering results using science, innovation, and nature-based solutions, tools for solving climate issues. Finally, I'd like to underscore that no single institution can do this alone. We must work collectively. Real progress takes teamwork, trust, and constant collaboration. So let's continue to work together, to share openly, and support each other on this journey. We're honoured to be part of this national effort and stand ready to support the Government of Liberia and other partners at every step. I thank you once again for the opportunity for CI to be part of this important moment. I wish you all a productive and inspiring workshop.
Thank you, Tim, for those inspiring remarks on behalf of Conservation International. Next, we will take special remarks from the Deputy Minister of Energy at the Ministry of Mines and Energy, Republic of Liberia, Honorable Charles Umahai. You are welcome to this podium.
A pleasant good morning to everyone. Sometimes when you just walk into the building and you are asked to make remarks, you are caught off balance. So I will just be as brief as possible. I want to thank you all for coming here today. This climate transparent status in Liberia is key for Liberia. One key thing I would like for us to take from this entire workshop is the positive outcomes, what we are going to achieve from this workshop. Whenever I come to this workshop, I always say one thing. Apart from talking the talk, let's walk the talk. The talk shouldn't only stay here, but we should ensure that this stock is sustainable. So on behalf of the Minister, Raymond JMP, I'd like to tell you all thank you for coming. And I'd also like to tell the organizers of this CI JEF project agency a big thank you. The government is happy to work with you, and you can be sure that our participation alone will speak volume, and we are there to help you with whatever sustainable project you have for Liberia. Thank you all, and wish you a prosperous, good workshop. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles Umar. You know, I caught him unaware while he was taking his breath, but as a soldier, he soldiered on. So thank you so much. At this time, we will take self-introduction, and I will be around with the microphone so that we call your name, your institution, and if possible, your position. Thank you.
Good morning. Yes, my name is Boulevard. I work with Conservation International. We provide project oversight support for the Global Environmental Facility, that is GEF project in Africa. I'm glad to be here.
Good morning to all. I'm Israel Bryant, Assistant Minister for Industry in the Ministry of Commerce and Industry.
Thank you.
My name is Fahmi Kadi. I'm the Assembly of Assembly of the Minister of Commerce. Okay, good morning. My name is Joshua Tibana. I'm the Assistant Media Coordinator of the EPA. Good morning. I'm David I.S. Body. I work at EPA and this is support staff.
Good morning. My name is Sandra Kofanzoga. I'm an intern at the EPA, NBC.
Thank you.
Good morning. Myself Mayor Cody from the Moral City Corporation and NCC Data Analyst.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Clayton Nsongwabi from the Ministry of Mines and Energy, Department of Energy, and I'm a member of the board.
My name is Fawati Dennis from the Ministry of Mines and Energy. I'm a climate change expert.
Good morning to all. I'm Jeff Chie from the Ministry of Mines and Energy.
Good morning. I'm Helena K. Chofi from the Ministry of Agriculture.
Good morning, everyone. Boulevard Palace, Ministry of Mines and Energy Technology.
Good morning. Desmond T. Thompson is my name. I work for the Environmental Protection Agency of Liberia, specifically in the office of the Executive Director, where I serve as a project lead. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Ernest K. Brown from the National Wash Commission. I serve as a technical assistant to the office of the CEO.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Boyna Claude. I work at the Environmental Protection Agency as a GIS officer.
Good morning. I'm B. Salvan. I serve as an assistant director to the Department of Multilateral Environmental Agreement at the EPA.
Okay, my name is Tony Marvin Goa. I'm a Liberia Service Major Transport.
Good morning, my name is Charles Esbukoyu. I'm intern, Livelihood Intern Conservation International. Good morning, everyone. My name is David Walker, and I'm serving as in-country consultant for the development of this project agreement.
Good morning, my name is Gonton Sila. I'm a national consultant and providing support to the CBIT project.
Good morning, I'm Tim Inem from CI.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Spencer Estilo Jr. I'm the Director of the Division of Climate Change and Environment, Ministry of Transport.
Good morning. My name is David Dix Dennis. I work as the Jet Portfolio Senior Manager at Conservation International.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Camila Nana Divine. I'm the Director of Environmental Health and Safety at the Monrovia City Corporation.
Good morning, everyone. The right answer will not talk more. My name is Atrina M. Salif from the Ministry of Internal Affairs, Director, Research and Development Planning, and also the focal point on NDC project.
Hi, good morning. My name is Daniel Watt. I work for Conservation International as the Managing Director for West and Central Africa. Good morning, everyone. My name is Roger Emu. I am the Director of Program Delivery for West and Central Africa at Conservation International. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Arthur R. Ducker. I'm the Director for the Department of Multilateral Environmental Agreements at the Environmental Protection Agency of Liberia.
Thank you. It is my understanding that we have people online, so we will ask them to please introduce themselves to who are online. Then I will close the round of introduction as the whole facilitator / MC. Online participants, please.
Thank you very much. We are very grateful to be part of the workshop. I am called Robert Navanyomia from Green Approaches, the entity that has been asked to facilitate the development of the project package, and we are very happy to be working with you. I know David is already there, so we'll be here with you all the time. Thank you. I'm online with colleagues, Stephen and Charles from this side, and they will introduce themselves. Thank you. Stephen? Joyce, you are muted, by the way.
Yes, good afternoon, participants, and good morning to you over there. Yeah, indeed, my name is Choice Agawa. I'm also part of the team from Green Approaches that is working together with the team at EPA to have this activity done. And I'm glad to be here with you, and I hope to tap into more from you during the meeting. Thank you.
Stephen? Stephen, you're muted. Anyway, we are with Stephen Kauba, who's also part of Green Approaches, and we are happy to be here, and we'll be following him till the end. Thank you very much.
Thank you, colleagues online, for the introduction. So we start the business of the day. And to begin with, we will start with a presentation about the Capacity Building Initiative for Transparency, CBIT, and that will be done by Conservation International. While we are sorting out the technical glitches associated with this, let me use this time to officially introduce myself, because I've got everybody like, who is this guy, who is the MC? So, my name is Teddy P. Taylor. I work in the Department of Multilateral Environmental Agreements at the EPA. I'm a climate change assistant and also the focal point for freshwater ecosystem. It is also my pleasing honor to welcome and to announce the arrival of the Executive Director / CEO of the Environmental Protection Agency of Liberia, Honorable Emmanuel King Yure Yakpawole. So because the MC has the final copy of this program, I would like to use this opportunity to invite to this podium the Executive Director / CEO of the Environmental Protection Agency of Liberia, Dr. Emmanuel King Yure Yakpawolo, to give us our opening and welcome remarks. If you are welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for coming. For some reason, I'm very hesitant with that CEO part of the name. CEO sounds like more like a business, right? And then I look at the EPA almost entirely as regulatory institution. And then I always hesitate. Even when I'm rating my own name, I don't put it. CEO there, I can be hesitant what I should add it there. Yeah, so I like the executive director part, but the CEO, yeah. I was saying the other time also, the State Bureau of State Enterprises, the regular EPA, the EPA is a state enterprise. So no, EPA is not a state enterprise. So EPA is a regulatory institution. But thank you for the introduction. I'll be quick here because a lot is going on, at least today. So I'll give a statement here, and then I'll ask for indulgence for me to excuse you and continue with other activities while you carry on this very important consultation. honorable officials, especially the Minister from Mines and Energy, development partners, our friends, Conservation International. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
It is a pleasure to welcome all of you to this important stakeholder consultation for the second phase of the capacity building initiative for transparency project. Our focus today is on strengthening the institutions and systems that allow Liberia to meet its transparency obligation under the Paris Agreement. As you know, the Paris Agreement is not just about reducing emissions. It is about building trust among nations through transparency. This means that every country, including Liberia, must be able to collect, manage, and report climate data accurately and regularly. In the first phase of the CIB project, we made good progress. We built basic systems for tackling climate data. We trained key personnel. We started improving coordination between ministries and agencies. But this was only the beginning. And today we move to the next step. The second phase of CIBT is not just about more activities. It is about creating a strong national framework that ensures long-term sustainable climate reporting across sectors. We want to move from fragmented efforts to integrated, transparent system that meets both national and international expectations. This new phase will focus on four main areas or four main goals. One, improving institutional arrangement for data collection and reporting. Two, strengthening technical capacity across ministries and agencies to report on nationally determined contributions. Three, making data more transparent and accessible for all stakeholders. And four, ensuring gender and social inclusion in our climate systems and reporting tools. Colleagues, this is not just one agency job. Achieving transparency requires the participation of every sector and every institution, from line ministries and county level offices to civil society organizations, private sectors, and even local communities. The data we need on emission, adaptation, and mitigation come from many sources. That's why today's consultation is so important. It is not just another meeting, it is an opportunity to shape a national process that will affect how we assess future climate finance, how we show progress to the world, and how we build trust with our own citizens. Transparency is no longer just reporting requirement. It is strategic opportunity. The better we report, the better our chances of unlocking critical international support for our development process as well as climate priorities. This is particularly important as we back on the carbon policy development. And as I speak to you, that process is ongoing right now. As a lead agency, we commit to doing our part with integrity, accountability, and openness. The feedback today will directly shape the design of CIB Phase 2. And beyond this room, we will continue to engage with you as we move from planning to implementation. In closing, I want to thank Conservation International for their continued partnership and support. And most importantly, I want to thank each of you for the work you are already doing to move Liberia forward on the line of transparency. Let us use this momentum to deepen our collaboration and build a more resilient and transparent Liberia for generations to come. Once again, welcome and thank you.
Thank you. So at this time, because of completing national engagements, we'll just beg the indulgence of the executive director to just give a few minutes for group photo. So group photo, media please coordinate that group photo. Thank you.
Yeah, preferably where the banner is.
So media please One day you should come here. The camera was a serious one. I know we can start. I'm convinced that we can start. The sooner we sit, the sooner we leave. Simple formula, right? Now we are going to, should I say call or recall the representative of Conservation International to do a presentation about the CDIT project. But I'm here once again.
Good morning once again. Apologies for the technical glitch. Thank you for your indulgence. So I will present about the Jeff CBAT project, and that is the outline of my presentation. We look at what the Jeff is and CI as the Jeff implementing agency, then the capacity building, transparency, and that's why we are here. So what is the Global Environmental Facility? This is a financial mechanism which helps countries to access financing that supports environmental multilateral agreements. There are various multilateral agreements. There is United Nations Framework for Convention for Climate Change, that is UNFCCC. There is the United Nations Convention to combat desertification. That is also one of the financial mechanisms supported by the GEF. Then you have Stockholm Convention. Then we have the United Nations Convention on biological diversity. That is another one. Then there's Montreal Protocol and Minamata Convention on Mercury. So those are the several multilateral agreements that countries can, that the GEF supports country to finance, in terms of tapping into finances to support them meet the requirements that they have committed to any of these multilateral. Then the GEF currently has 183 countries that can be able to be supported through the financial mechanism put in place, and this is done through 18 implementing agencies, of which CI is one of the implementing agencies. And as at now, the GEF operates in a cycle. So as at now, we are GEF 8 cycle. That's why you will hear GEF 8 cycle. But as of next year, July 2026, you will start hearing of GEF 9. That will be now meaning we are the 9th replenishment cycle of the GEF. So overall, that is how the GEF works and how it supports countries to access financing in terms of climate change, focal areas of climate change, biodiversity, waste and chemicals, and land degradation. So as of 2013, CI became a conservation, it became a GEF implementing agency, and from there countries, CI could be able to support countries to access financing from the GEF to support different areas of that the GEF is abided to by the multilateral agreement. So as CI, we work across the globe, and Africa is one of the niche that we work in, and we have been able to work with Liberia in several projects, including CPIT1, which was concluded some time back, and then now we are here together in this workshop for CPIT2, and there are other projects also in Liberia, like in the Guinean forest, where we'll also be working with the government of Liberia to support conservation work through the Global Environment Facility. Then this is just a snapshot of the CI as a GEF implementing agency, but basically just to say that we can see progress as the GEF implementing agency of what we can be able to achieve. We are here to track data. So also on our end, we can be able to report since 2013 how much hectares of land we've been able to support countries to restore, how many people have been reached and benefited from the GEF investments, and also we just look at how much investment has gone into ensuring that we are conserving nature for the benefit of the people. So this is just a snapshot of how the agency looks like, how it operates. So just to dive now into the CPIT, that is the Capacity Building Initiative for Transparency, which is a fund pool for the GEF. So how did the CPIT come about? And during the negotiations on the Paris Agreement, there was a need that countries have committed, there's commitment for countries to reduce their global greenhouse gas emissions. So during the negotiation, it was recognized that for countries to be able to meet this, the developing countries, there will be need for financial support so that they can be able to be enabled to track progress that countries are making towards the national determined contributions commitment. And so based on this, under Article 13 of the Paris Agreement, which the article focuses on enhanced transparency framework, so countries can be able to be capacity build both technically and institutionally to be able to comply with the requirements of the Paris Agreement. So for the enhanced transparency framework for action and its support and build in flexibility, which takes into account parties' different capacities and build upon collective experience. So when you hear about the CPIT project, this is the focus. It's on the capacity building for institutions and both technically. So then after that, it was recognized that parties to the UNFCCC, they requested the JEF to be the funding institutions or the institutions that hold these funds for capacity building initiative for transparency in order that countries can have a financial mechanisms that can be able to be accounted for and tap into. So this will be able to ensure that countries actualize the transparency elements that are stipulated in the Article 13 of the Paris Agreement. Basically, when we talk about Article 13, that is enhanced framework and enhanced transparency framework. And that contributes into the reporting, the general reporting to UNFCCC requirements on greenhouse gas emission or IPCC. So then afterwards, after this request, the JEF established the trust fund for CBIT. As of November 2016, countries were able to now be able to access resources to support their capacity to be able to track progress and report against achieving of the NDC commitments that they had already made to the UNFCCC. So that's where now with the CI came in, because as a JEF implementing agency, we are one of the agencies that can be able to support countries to access these CBIT funds from the JEF and able to and so that the countries can be able to enhance their capacity. So as a portfolio for CBIT, we've been able to support various countries so far. So there are projects that we have supported that have closed, and I've mentioned CBIT Phase 1, Liberia CBIT Phase 1 was one of the projects. And we have CBIT Kenya and the CBIT Uganda Phase 1, which also closed, and now they're in Phase 2. Then there's CBIT Madagascar, which has also closed, and now they're getting to Phase 2. And then the CBIT Rwanda, which has just closed, and now we are getting to the CBIT 2. So the projects that are under implementation are currently 3 projects that are under implementation under the CIJF portfolio, and the CBIT COMESA, which runs across different countries, 4 countries, and then there's the CBIT Gambia, just here in the west, and CBIT Uganda as mentioned. Then at the PPG phase, we have 2 projects that are now on course, and Liberia Phase 2 is one of them. Then at the pipeline, we have 2 projects that are now starting, and just as I had mentioned. So that basically sums up our portfolio as what we are working on as CIJF to support developing countries to access CBIT resources from the JEF. So basically looking at, we've talked about the CBIT, the question will be, so how do we ensure we structure our projects that aligns to the requirements of CBIT fund pool so that it can be able to be funded by the JEF? There are 3 key goals that the CBIT project has to address in terms of strengthening capacity, both technically and institutionally at the country to enhance their transparency. And the first one is to strengthen national institutions for transparency-related activities in line with national priorities. The second goal for CBIT, as we design it and also as we discuss it during this session, we have the project has to align to the second goal of the GFCBIT, which is providing relevant tools, training and assistance for meeting the provisions stipulated in Article 13 of the agreement. And the third goal is to assist the improvement of transparency over time. So those are the key goals that the GF focuses on, and to make a decision whether to support a country in terms of enhancing their capacity to reporting against Article 13 of the Paris Agreement. So basically, this project will be discussed in the next session. We will just look at the objective of the project, what has been proposed, how this project will be able to align to these three goals, and that is to strengthen the institutional and technical capacity of Liberia to enhance compliance to the transparency requirement of the Paris Agreement. So that is the discussion we are having on how the objective of this project will align to the three goals that are set out for the CBAT. Yes, so that is it for my presentation as of now. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you so much, madam, for the wonderful presentation. Next on my list is a presentation about the achievements of the CBIT-1 project, looking at the theory of change of the CBIT-2, the project result framework, the link between CBIT-1 and CBIT phase 2. How does CBIT-2 help in building the achievement of the phase 1 project, and then we open up for plenary question and answer. At this time, I'm going to call on the Green Approaches Limited, the consultant on this project, to do for us the presentation.
Thanks, Terry. Thanks for the wonderful job you are doing today. Good morning again, colleagues. So I'm tasked with the responsibility of the presentation on strengthening the capacity of institutions in Liberia to comply with the transparency element of the Paris Agreement. So maybe just a line about Green Approaches. Green Approaches is an international environmental firm that was hired by CI to help Liberia with the project, with the PPG. So we're happy to be the in-country consultant, and my colleagues are online, so I think they are following up with me. So Robert, do you have anything you want to say before I start the presentation? Robert, are you there? Oh.
Yes, thank you very much. You can go ahead with the presentation, David. We are grateful to be part of the process to develop CBIT, Green Approaches, and ourselves have been working with the GF and project developments for the last 30 years, and we are very happy to be supporting the process in Liberia. Our colleague David we make the presentation that we brought together here, and we'll look forward to hearing from you to support and enrich the project document with the national level priorities. We are always excited in terms of the national stakeholder workshops, because then we are able to get and capture the national priority in it. Up to this point, and as David will show, we have been able to engage with some of you in that meeting and reviewed the term evaluation and other documentation, and we've come up with the current status of the project that David is going to present now, and we look forward to your inputs. And as you will see from the objectives of the workshop, is real to ensure that we can get input from you guys. So I will ask David to go ahead to make the presentation, and for any interventions, we are here to we are making notes, and we will get involved deeply whenever we want to have any clarifications, so that we can, by the end of the day, come up with the best project that is realistic for the country at this point. And we know that the CBT1 did a lot of achievements, and we will also note that in this presentation, so that we will be clarified whether we can actually build on those achievements. So we really look forward to your input into making this project as realistic as possible, and building on what Dr. Emmanuel King said. We really look forward to ensuring that it addresses the gaps and the requirements of the country at this point in terms of transparency reporting. So David, you can go ahead. We are here with Choice and Stephen Kauba, and we look forward to engaging productively with colleagues, particularly during the plenary discussions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Steve, Robert, and the rest of the Green Approaches team. So this is actually meant to be interactive, but we will just present to you how far we are, where we started from. That is from CPRT 1 to where we are now, and what the next steps will be. So as we go through the presentation, we expect that you really look at key areas that you can make inputs to, and that will feed into the final version of the project document. So the presentation is divided into 3 parts. Part 1, we will talk about the background, and then in part 2, we'll look at progress made in the provision so far. That is how far we are right now with the provision of CBRT 2, and then we'll look at next steps. So the background, we will look at the objectives of the workshop while we are here today. We'll build on CBRT phase 1. We'll be looking at the achievements, successes, and we'll be looking at how CBRT 2 can build on the success story of CBRT 1. And then from there, we will take you through an overview of the project, that is CBRT 2 project, and the project preparation process, the methodology, what we have achieved so far. We'll look at then the theory of change. Where are we right now? Where do we want to go? What change do we desire to have when we shall implement CBRT 2? And then from there, we'll look at the results framework, very key. What are the key results that we intend to achieve when we implement CBRT 2? And those are areas that we really also want a lot of input from the technical team here. And then we tell you what we've been doing with stakeholder engagements so far and what we intend to do. The next, then part 3 of our presentation will now cover suggestions from stakeholders and recommendations. And then we'll look at the PPG, the project preparation grant timelines and activities. Why are we here today? So we are here to introduce CBRT Phase 2 project. to you, the stakeholders, and to engage with you on how we can foster the preparation of CBRT 2. So the specific reason why we are here, we want to update the stakeholders on the progress of the project preparation, present and discuss the theory of change and the project result framework that will include our objectives, our outcomes, and our outputs. From there, we'll look at, the next specific objective will be to get a view on the potential roles and responsibilities of our stakeholders, including looking at the ESS guidelines. So from there, we'll look at the plan. The next objective will be to plan for the planning activities, that is the validation workshop, very key. Co-financing, very significant, very key to achieving what we want to achieve. So, where are we with CBRT? What did we achieve with CBRT 1? Quite a number of our colleagues in here may have participated in CBRT 1, and you will have perhaps additional achievements that were made, and I clearly see it's good that we have the former manager of CBRT, the manager of CBRT 1 here. So perhaps we'll be projecting some information here about the achievements, and you will say, no, green approaches, we need to add this, that was not achieved, this was achieved, and that can help to strengthen our CBRT 2. So, we said on the CBRT 1, we achieved a coordinated framework was established and institutionalized. So basically there was a framework established for coordination, and the framework was institutionalized. And we said PSC was also established. And then again, under CBRT 1, we achieved a data sharing cooperation agreements, and I think it was signed between 5 institutions and then the Republic of Liberia, but then with the CBRT hubs and so, and I think I saw some other documents around. Then we also want to look at the MRV. What we achieved, MRV equipment was provided to sector hubs and EPA. So we found that equipment such as computers, laptops, maybe cameras and other equipment was supplied to the CBRT hub, basically to support data collection, processing, and reporting. And then this hub was established with we're at the data collection tools, Ministry of Agriculture, Transport, Energy, and Waste were also achieved. So we say during CBRT 1, technical capacity was strengthened to feed into the GHG inventory system. So another big achievement that was made on the CBRT 1 that we can nod our chest about is that some 389 Liberians were trained, and of that figure, this aggregated by gender, 41% were women and 59% of them were men. And it was from 5 NDC sectors in the University of Liberia. And they were trained basically on MRV systems, MRV reporting to support the transparency element of the Paris Agreement. So we also supported national priorities and decision making on the CBRT 1. So then, all the achievements, what did we learn? What lesson did we learn from CBRT 1 that we can either improve on or correct to inform the development of CBRT 2? Because in life, everything you do, you must learn a lesson, or else you made a mistake, you keep repeating the mistake. And if you have a success story, if you learn from them, they can help you how to make your success story even better than what you have previously. So, success story 1, or lesson learned 1. The sector expressed the need for more capacity. Yes, they acknowledge that capacity was being built, and we did the statistics, but the sectors clearly stated that there's a need to have additional technical staff trained, and that is very logical, because we know there is a situation where people sometimes either change jobs or someone get trained and then we change the job or leave the country, or the number of persons to be trained at that time at the institution was inadequate. They wanted to train like maybe 25 or 30 person, but then the TBRT were only able to train 15. So learning from that, we want to improve. Basically, we have to improve on that. So stakeholder mapping to identify co-actors and identify synergies and enhance collaboration was also learned as a lesson. Then we also learned that the issue of co-design and co-implementation and domestication of projects is very relevant to ensure that it's very relevant to look to our local needs and priorities. So we need to do co-design of projects together, co-implementation and so forth. And then MRV, we learned that the MRV system that was initiated will serve as a one-stop shop information center for transparency reporting under the ETF. So, how can then CBRT Phase 2 project build on the achievement of CBRT Phase 1? So if you look at, it's not like a puzzle. We're trying to connect every dot to make sure the flow, from what was done before and what is to be done in the future are really connected. And what we'll achieve, what we'll learn from there are to carry forward, so that we have a better document, a better project document on our CBRT 2. So how CBRT Phase 2 project is building on the achievement of CBRT 1. This is a clear, this slide is demonstrating how we are building on CBRT 1 to do CBRT 2. So, a signed agreement to be operationalized. We know that under CBRT 1, there was a data sharing agreement signed between NDC institutions and the EPA. But we understand that has not been operationalized. So it's just logical to ensure that under CBRT 2, we do what is needed to be done to ensure that those data sharing agreements are operationalized, they have become effective. And then we have 9 ND sector, our revised NDC 2021 increased the ND sector to 9. I'm quite sure by the time CBRT 1 was being done, maybe it was just centered around 5 or 6 sectors. But now we have our NDC, revised NDC that has 9 sectors. So it's really logical to improve or increase the number of agreements from 5 to additional 3 to make to align with the NDC sectors. So the next. Direct project beneficiary. So CBRT 1, on the other slide, we said, in this one, we said that some 389 Liberians were trained, that figure 160 women. So we want to build, CBRT 2 will build on this number and to increase this number. And so then another thing we'll do again, CBRT 1 is able to development of protocols and collection of data, collection of GHG data, and so these protocols, some people perhaps don't know where they are right now. It happens with project has been over for quite a while. So the protocol will be traced, retrieved, shared, and then technical staff will be trained to offer a wider scope of stakeholder engagement that will include the private sector, NGO, CSO, and academia. So this is centered around training. More people will be trained on the protocols that was established on the CBRT 1. So we noticed that in CBRT 1, the local CSO and private sectors were not fully engaged, yet they serve as a reservoir for GHGR data, that is greenhouse gas emission data. So under CBRT 2, we intend to engage our local CS, our local NGOs, the SCNL, the Society for Conservation of Nature. Now we have Nature Compact, we have Green Life. The last time Green Life was working on development of the methane roadmap, and methane is a key various gas and so forth. So under CBRT 1, they were not really engaged. Yes, to some extent, but to a good extent, they were not engaged. So we intend to ensure that under CBRT 2, these local institutions are actually engaged and share their own experiences and how we can improve reporting. So we leverage on partnership and additional non-JEF resources. We know there are other projects that are going that are not JEF funded projects, but some of these projects are also geared towards transparency reporting. So how can we leverage on those opportunities? How can we partner together to ensure that we meet our transparency requirement on the ETF? We just completed the development of our first biannual transparency report. Some of our part of that process, we know how it was in terms of getting data to report, and where some of the institutions could be having those information. So that is how we intend to build on what CBRT 1 achieved. So now this slide, we are now to why we are here. We just discussed in the previous sections of CBRT 1 and how we clearly demonstrates how we intend to build CBRT 1. And now we are the project preparation process for CBRT 2. Now, so CBRT 2 project is titled Strengthening the Capacity of Institutions in Liberia to comply with the transparency requirements of the Paris Agreement, or transparency element, whatever we call it. So, under the ETF, there are clear guidelines on how countries should report. So, I think from Mavi's presentation, she clearly demonstrated how CIGF has helped countries, including Liberia around the world, to be able to meet with the reporting requirements. Because at the end of the day, in the whole climate change space, we all trying to meet the target of the Paris Agreement, right? So we will do it collectively, and then we need our institution to be very strong enough, robust enough, to understand that. Remember, if I were to go back one step in NDC, we say we're going to reduce our GHG emission by how much? 64%, right? So to reduce them by 64%, we have 9 sectors that we outline, right? So each sector has to have a clear understanding of exactly what kind of data they'll be collecting, what kind of data they'll be analyzing, and they'll be reporting that will contribute towards reducing GHG emission by 64% by 2030. I think the target was 2030, if I remember very well. So if our capacity are not built at NDC institutions, how then can we report on the NDC? How then can we report through the BTR, right? We want to find it difficult. So this whole project is about building institutional capacity to be able to implement and report on our NDC. Now, so the implementing entity for this project is Conservation International, so we call it CIGF. And the executive agency, of course, is the EPA. The EPA is the National Designated Entity for Multilateral Environmental Agreements, and of course, the Paris Agreement under which this project falls is under the MEAs. So clearly, EPA will be the executive agency, and the project will be for 48 months. So for a whole 48 months, that's like around 2 years, right? We'll be just working to build capacity of institutions. Ministry of Mines and Energy, Ministry of Agriculture, private sector, and so forth. What capacity do you have? And the great amount is going to be 1.4 billion US dollars. But now, here is the tricky bit. Usually, Jeff usually emphasizes that for every $1 spent, you will have around $7 from a co-funding, from a company, from a co-financing. So the ratio is 1 to 7. So that means, even as we are discussing this, And the good thing is that that funding must not be in cash. It can be in kind, it can be in, for example, office space, it can be vehicles, and so forth. We can value them in cents and dollars that will match this funding. So we also look, as we go to the presentation, we want institutions in here to think through what they are doing in their institutions that is related to this, and then how we can see how that can count for the co-financing to ensure that this element of the project preparation process is achieved. Okay, the project preparation process so far. What we have done methodology, we've reviewed, documentation have been reviewed. So we look at past reports, we look at the terminal evaluation report that was prepared by other CBRT 1. We look at other national policies and programs that are ongoing in the country. So we look at lessons learned and so forth. And then all of that, we also been engaging with stakeholders. For not all of you, but most of you have seen me. I was at the Ministry of Agriculture, engaging. I was at EPA, Mines and Energy, and so forth. All of the engagement was just to get you involved in the project, explain the project to you, so that you are able to plug in and ensure that we have a document that we're all proud of. So we'll be doing further consultations, including this workshop. This workshop is part of our consultations, and that's why we intend for you to give us feedback on what we'll be presenting later on when it comes to the project's components and so forth. And then we incorporate all the feedbacks. Then, of course, we incorporate the feedbacks into the document. And then we'll develop a detailed activity, and then we'll do an activity-based budgeting. This is very key. So it means that if an activity that you want to be in the project or the component will get there, you have to make sure you have the activities in mind so that you can suggest them, or and then they can feed into the document, into the project document that will eventually feed into the activity-based budgeting. Now, here we are, the theory of change, the project theory of change. What is the story we are telling? Where are we right now, and where we want to get to? This is very important because we call it theory of change. This is like a roadmap. This is like a map of where we want to go and what we want to achieve. So, the desired change we want. The library we want, the CBRT we want is what we speak into here. Strengthen the capacity of government and non-state actors in the NDC focal area and GHG emission sectors to manage Liberia's GHG system and to improve transparency over time. That's what we want to do. That's what we want to get. So we know what we want to get. But then, that's the desired change we want as a country. Then, what can we do to get there? So, first result, to improve institutional and technical capacity of Liberia to progressively achieve its target of high quality data collection. Remember, I will underscore progressively, right? We want to build institutional technical capacity to progressively. Meanwhile, it's not going to happen like this, right? It's going to happen over time. And also it's going to have CBRT 1, CBRT 2, and other in-countries activities that are building capacity. So what is the problem, the main challenge? So we have a serious problem, major data gaps that limit the fulfillment of transparency, and this one we have said in all our meetings. All these technical meetings I've been privileged to attend, whether it's EPA or MOA or EFDB or whatever project, the key challenge you have is data. There's a data gap on accuracy, completeness, and comparability, principles. So that's a key challenge or a problem. We have insufficient technical capacity in terms of personnel in institutions, and this is true. And that's why we're thinking about building more capacity. to implement the NDC towards the ETF. We have limited technical capacity at the institutional and individual level to progressively and constantly manage and update the GRG, the GHGI, and the MRV system for ETF reporting. If Asakana was in the room, I'd look around and see, I really wish I want to see him today, as well as my brother and friend John Kana. These are things we struggle with. So clearly there are challenges. Whoever thought this, they have the challenges. Then a lack of an established baseline for tracking of mitigations and admission actions. A limited knowledge about the modalities, procedures, and the guidelines, the so-called MPGs. Generally, there are limited knowledge about MPGs for the reporting system. And all these are things that the project is looking around. Now, what are the major barriers? So we look at the problem, the challenges, then now on the looking at to look at the major barriers. So we have two main barriers. One of them is technical and institutional barrier, such as limited coordination among institutions to promote a functional national MRV system. And we also have low institutional engagements in GHG data collection at the sector level, which is actually correct. From where I'm saying, our engagement with the GHG sector in this country. Then the next thing, another barrier we have, capacity barriers. What we have is sufficient technical capacity among institutions to implement the NDC. And again, I would say this is true because I know John, how much John struggled with even getting sectors implementing and reporting to him. And also we have limited technical capacity at the institution and individual level to constantly manage and update the MRV system. So, if we have an MRV system that is functional, that's we managing very well, when it comes to our annual transparency reporting, it will be very easy for the country. I mean, there will be very little money spent on field data collection because the sector, less and is collecting data, whether it's energy data, they're analyzing it, and they are feeding the MRV system with it. When it comes to reporting, we just go to the MRV system, and then retrieve the data from there, do our analysis, prepare a report, and get to EPA and EP submit. So that's how valuable the MRV system is going to be if we overcome that barrier. So the objective of the project will be how then do we overcome the two barriers? Technical capacity, technical institutional capacity, capacity barriers for the NDC sector. Now, the enabler. What are the enablers for us to be able to achieve? And that's what we achieve. So basically, if you look at what we see, so we say the enabler, the existence of the relevant policy, and we'll share this presentation, I think, at this level, maybe at some point after we've done, because it's the public document. The enabler, existence of relevant policy and legislation and regulations. Enabler 2, Liberia established a framework for data sharing among key sectors and agencies. Liberia initiated the development of MRV system with information on GHG and NDC sector. So these are 3 key enablers that, Then we went ahead and identified some risks. Now, what are the key risks that we are likely to have in this project? At least a foreseen one, and we hope not to have any unforeseen one. The risks identified: 1, a limited political will to support the implementation of project activities. And if this is not true, when we get to plenary, we can cover some of these risks we have highlighted here. The GHG emission sectors not being effectively coordinated to implement the tools and protocols. The current number of women in the institution is too low for the target of Liberia transparency reporting. Now, we are quite aware that in one of our projects, not just the JEF projects, we are we show that women are also participating, right? The issue of gender and parity and so forth. At least in many countries, we say we should have at least a third And these are tired of women being involved. But the challenge now is for the risk assessment, we found that many women are not in that sector. So, for example, let's take Ministry of Agriculture. If we have very less women in the GHG sector, they have to retrain them. To train them, they have to be there first, right? So that's a risk. The commitment of the sector hubs and NDC focal point to be conversant with the develop transparency systems to operationalize and manage a short period of time. So what are the underlying assumptions for these risks? The main assumptions. Assumption 1, we have 5 assumptions. 1, we say there is an increase in awareness among political and decision makers to support the project activity. Even though we have a risk that says there's a limited political will to support the implementation of project activities, but we are assuming that from all these stakeholder engagement meetings and other meetings that have been taking place, there have been some increased awareness among the political class and decision makers. So we can say, okay, they will want to support it. Now, GHG assumption 2. The GHG emission sectors are willing to share GHG data according to the protocol. There is a will from the technicians who will be working acting on the data to share information, and that's what we do as technicians. We share that information and we share information to make our life a bit easier. And assumption 3 is that stakeholders and gender participation is effectively harnessed. And of course, the 4th one, we say the skills and capacity building through CBRT phase 1 training practice. And of course, our last assumption is that the capacity building will be accepted by the targeted institution and will be integrated into the activities for updating and managing their GHGR and MRV systems. So, we assume that after all of the trainings that will go for CBRT1 and CBRT2 now, we have operationalized these institutions, these hubs that was established, and will be willing to constantly integrate the activities they have learned and update and manage the MRV system, and so that we can have the data when we need it. So I think what we just discussed on the theory of change. So this is like a graphical demonstration of illustration of the theory of change. So it's just what we discussed. If you look at it, it has the long-term impact that we want to achieve. They also have the core objectives. Then it has the outcome, the components which we will discuss in other slides, the barriers, we already talked about it in the root causes. So just sorry. Now, the result framework. So the project will have 4 components. Component 1, 2, 3, and 4. So in component 1 of the project, it will seek to enhance sectoral coordination for GHG data sharing to facilitate transparency reporting. Component 2 was strengthening the national MRV system as a one-stop source of information on the national greenhouse gas inventory and NDC tracking for enhanced transparency reporting. Component 3, strengthening knowledge sharing and synthesis of best practices and lessons learned. And of course, the end project, the last component will be MAE. So what are the overall targets? The overall targets for this component that we just highlighted would be we want to have at least 5 NDC sector hubs, data sharing agreements, and one with the University of Liberia sign under the CBRT, one operationalized. So we want to operationalize the agreement that was signed. That's one of our key targets. Our target 2 will be at least 3 new data sharing agreements signed to align with the NDC. Now, our target 3 will be to train additional 450 stakeholders, institute technicians and so forth around NDC, GHG reporting. So of that number, we are targeting to train at least 30% women for each of the RPCC GHG mission sectors, and the sectors are listed there. And follow energy, transport, RPU, waste, and so forth. To collect, process, and feed the GHG data into the national MRV, national GHG and MRV system. Then we also targeted to have at least 9 NDC priority areas institutional fully equipped. Remember under CBRT 1, there was equipped, right? It was provided some equipment under CBRT 1. So under CBRT 2, wanted to be fully equipped for MRV reporting, MRV for tracking reporting. At least nine NDC sector institutions with demonstrable capacity for effective NDC implementation, particularly implementing measures, monitoring and reporting for NDC mitigation actions. Then of course, one of our overall target again is to look at project coordination, learning and sharing about these 2 other non-initiatives such as the national and regional, at national and regional level. We want to collaborate regional and nationally. And of course, annual reporting. So I want us to really come attention to this part of the presentation, because this is where we really need the input. Of course, entire project document, but this is where we really need the input of the stakeholders in here. So the components, for each component, under the result framework, we have the outcome and we have the output. So for component 1, we have outcome 1.1, what we want to achieve, what result we want to get, a functional data sharing cooperation framework strengthened and effectively coordinated among the GHG and the NDC sector. We say to do that, we need 4 outputs. Output 1 will be to sector-specific GHG data sharing operation agreement, operationalized, which makes sense, because if you're from the forestry sector, for the agricultural sector, we want sector-specific GHG and cooperation agreement to be operationalized, make it functional. Then the second one will be a multi-sectoral coordination committee established with at least 40% women. And this one will be that committee of technical experts, right? So the committee that will meet, they will decide whether to meet quarterly or biannually, to meet and really get lessons from, coordinate for the different sectors, what's happening in different sectors. So we're also proposing that at least 40% of that committee members should be women. Even though I would complain that not many women in the sector. So we want to give equipment and infrastructures and tools for MRV system, MRV data collections. Under the same component, we want to do agendas. We want an output on gender-sensitive data sharing and protocols, techniques and guidelines. Developed under CBRT to operationalize to support Liberia monitoring progress towards achieving the NDC targets and for monitoring our organization in meeting the emissions. So that's what we want to achieve on our component. If you realize, okay, in this result format we don't have activities, we just have the components, we have the outcome in it. Now, component 2. Component 2 is where the heavy lifting is in terms of capacity building for our institutions. So, under component 2, we say we want to strengthen the national MRV and reporting verification system as a one-stop source of information on national greenhouse gas inventory and NDC tracking for enhanced transparency. I'm saying it's a heavy lifting because this is where bulk of the project will be centered around. So the first outcome that will be under this project will be, we want to achieve under this component will be to strengthen the national GHGI system to constantly feed the national MRV system. I think it's important, constantly feed, because if we have that achieved, like I've said previously, our reporting live under the BTR will be very, very easy. You know, our will be very easier for us to really clearly show how we are collecting, analyzing, and reporting our data in a very transparent manner. And the 64% we talk about reducing, we can clearly demonstrate how we are reducing our GHG emission by 64% in the NDC. So we want a gender responsive capacity needs assessment based on CBRT 1 recommendation to enhance transparency reporting. Yes, we want to know, we want to do an assessment, but a gender responsive assessment to ensure that not just the needs of gender is clearly captured in the project. So I'll put 2, well, we look at national and county level stakeholder, disaggregated by sex, from institutions including our CSOs, our NGOs, the private sector, and academia. Working in the GHG emission sector to be trained regularly to collect and actively collect data and feed it into the MRV system. So we want the CSOs, we want the NGOs, and a lot is happening with CSOs and NGOs around in the GHG space. Go to this Mando manufacturing company, oil palm company, they do a lot around. And there's another NGO, last time I was in a meeting, and there's a environmental firm that was telling me how much GHG data they have and what they are doing with GHG data and so forth. So also building the capacity and to feed our national MRV system, our GHG system, is what we want to achieve on our component 2 of this project. And then, again, at least 30% winning. We're targeting at least 30% winning under this output. Then, output 3, one of our MRV system feedback mechanism, operationalized and institutionalized to evaluate GHGR capacity building effectiveness. Component, still on component 2. Component 2 has, I think, 3 outcomes. So component 2, outcome 2, enhance technical capacity for sector institutional to utilize measuring, reporting, and verification system for the NDC tracking and ETF reporting. So we have 3 outputs on this component. We want to have sector-specific training, of course, on MRV data analysis. So what because the training needs of lands and mines, the training needs of agriculture, the training of FDA, of commerce, health will be different. So we want to have a sector-specific training, right? And as an output. Capacity of Liberia climate change transparency hubs for publication are priorities and actions and measures enhanced. So for all our priorities, climate change transparency hubs, we want CBRT hubs. We want them, want that capacity to be built and to be enhanced so that they're able to report appropriately. Then under this outcome, we have a tier output to establish a support system for NDC focal lead to realize and operationalize. So, then component 2, the last outcome, we want to strengthen technical capacity for implementation of the NDC measures, policies, action, monitoring, and reporting. So we have under this outcome, we have two outputs. One is to tailor capacity building workshops and training sessions on NDC measures to be conducted. So we want specific capacity building workshops and specific training tailored to the NDC needs of that sector to be conducted. And then resource mobilization and strategy development to sustain NDC implementation and stakeholder capacity. Now, because we are quite aware in this space that there are so many reasons why we have staff turnover, right? Because if the capacity is built, and we have a strategy for sustaining or retaining the staff and actually implementing the NDC measures, I mean, the results will not like. So that's why this output is targeting to achieve. Component 3. Under component 3 of this project, I want to strengthen coordination, learning, and sharing between CBRT2, like the project, and other initiatives at the local, national, and regional and global levels. So there are a lot of things happening within countries. So this output is looking at spreading the knowledge and sharing, spreading knowledge, sharing, and learning, and synthesis of best practices. What can we learn from our peers in the region? Quite often in Liberia and Sierra Leone, have a lot of peer-to-peer knowledge exchange, looking at activities to enhance them and strengthen them. So we have, for this outcome, we have got four outputs. One of them is to include, to have an inclusive and gender-sensitive project knowledge management and communication strategy. So we need to have a communication strategy and a project management strategy. So that's what output is intended to achieve, so that we are able to clearly collaborate. So the next output, we look at the National Transparency and Knowledge Sharing and Management Platform operationalized. So I know I think this will form an EKMS. We have our EKMS, right? The Environmental Knowledge Management System that was in place. I think quite recently, I think it's back on now, but it has been off for a very long time. That was like a one-stop shop for knowledge sharing. I remember when I was doing some papers, I just go there, click EKMS, you are able to retrieve any document from the environment from that system. So then we will bring that transparency and knowledge sharing platform back and make it functional again. Then the third output is to ensure a gender responsive, inclusive, focused material and knowledge product developed, disseminated and uploaded to the climate transparency platform managed under CBRT, a global support program. So at the local level, we need to have this output seeks to ensure that materials are developed that are gender responsive or gender sensitive, and that can be used in the country and to help us to implement the transparency element of the Paris Agreement. And then we have a last output, learning and exposure visits. This, we all testify to that. This is a key thing when it comes to knowledge sharing. Just taking a trip from here to Ghana, just to understand how Ghana coordinating and implementing our projects. We have a Rwanda just, I think we are ahead of them because we are doing CBRT 1. I mean, we are doing 2 and they are just doing 1. Uganda is also doing 2, CBRT 2. So just having a key technical staff from Liberia to go to Uganda and see what we can learn from them and what they can also learn from us. So there's proving that peer-to-peer learning and knowledge sharing is very key in terms of knowledge management and retention. So output 4, we want to satisfy that. Then component 4, of course, is monitoring and evaluation. We say we want to have a gender-sensitive monitoring and evaluation framework for the project. So we want to make sure we have clear indicators that are pointing in the direction that yes, our project is gender-sensitive or gender-responsive and so forth. So we have 2 outputs under this outcome to achieve the component. So one of them is periodic gender-sensitive M&E reporting submitted to CRJF, reports submitted to CRJF, and incorporating the agency gender-based aggregated data and gender-specific indicators. So we want to have a report submitted to CRJF that clearly have the data disaggregated and with clear data, with clear gender-specific indicators. Because in M&E systems, sometimes if you don't specify the data, it can be clear, it can be mixed up. So we want an M&E system that will speak to having clear indicators to report on gender. Then the second output, or the final output of this component will be independent evaluation conducted in accordance with JEF and CRJF evaluation policies. So we want an evaluation on this component to be done, but in accordance with CR and CRJF policies. So at this point, there are other slides after this, but I would like to stop for Q&A, and then we can go to plenary before we look at other sections of the slide. So, police, that is the project result framework we presented to you. In summary, we presented CBRT 1, what was achieved on CBRT 1. We presented, clearly demonstrated how we intend to build on CBRT 1. Then we clearly highlighted lessons learned from CBRT 1 and how we intend to carry that over to CBRT 2. In CBRT 2, we talked about, we gave an overview of the project, and then we also touched on the result framework, the theory of change first. We discussed the theory of change, where the change is 1, and then we talked about the result framework, and then what we highlighted clearly the 4 main components, and for each of the components, the outcomes, and for each of the outcomes, we have outputs for each of them. So at this point, maybe my colleagues are online, I'm also here. We can take some question and answer, then we have to go to plenary. Because we have some guiding questions, we want to have, like, I don't know how we do it, but I think we can have breakout groups. And then we discuss in our breakout groups that will give the guidelines and what we will do with the breakout group and provide some guidelines on that. But maybe we can just take general questions for now.
So, questions and answers? If you have questions, okay. So, since you're already here,
So, David, thank you for the presentation. I think the framework, the theory of change, and some of the summary of the experiences from the first CBRT was clearly well presented. But there was one place when you were mentioning the presentation of achievement from CBRT 1. You mentioned something called PSC. I don't know what is that.
Oh, Project Steering Committee.
Oh, Project Steering Committee.
Yes, a Project Steering Committee was established. We have to all using all the funds to have a PSC.
Okay. Yeah. So we take another.
So we will strengthen that PSC as well.
Thank you. And look at the lesson learned and all of the approaches and all of those components that was listed. But just a few concerns that I have. The first one, like you talk about the CBRT trainings, but I did not really get the aspect of CBRT trainings per sector. So like if we need to stratify the training sections sectors that are within the NDC in terms of reporting, and also there are some sectors that are cross-cutting. They may not be, like say, visible within the NDC, but they are all supporting. For example, if you look at the issue of the RREA, that is a Rural Renewable Energy Agency as well. Like, how can they be factored in terms of this sector-wide training? And also, like, I was looking at the lesson learned portion, I didn't see the aspect of the mapping out of the sector actors. For example, if we talk about the waste sector, what are the institutions that are within the waste sector that we need to strengthen our capacity for reporting? And also in terms of lesson learned, which sectors within the NDC 2.0 that couldn't report, or their reporting ability was not as compared to the other sectors? How can we now disaggregate those interventions to help those sectors that could not? Like, if you look at the NDC, the report sector, you notice that the waste sector, there was not much capture in terms of their GHG emission or reduction, even though they are sourced, and sometimes the reduction aspect should be captured as well. So what are some of these lesson learned around there? What are some of this right way forward methodology that should have been part of those components? I did not really see that as well. So I just want to know about it.
Is there any other question?
Yeah, the other one.
Okay, come on.
Thank you. To the presenter, for the presentation. I keep hearing Ministry of Lands, Mines and Energy. I just wanted to make a correction. Mines and Energy. Mines and Energy. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. You talk about data sharing, and I know in CDID 1 it was much difficult. So what measure you are putting in place in CDID 2?
Okay, let's take the third question, then you answer, then we'll come another round. Oh, okay.
Somebody have some colleagues in here. Could be quite frank. Some colleagues in here will maybe have answer to some of the questions. So if you have an answer to some of the questions, colleagues, you are also free to respond to them. I am not presenting a thesis. This is our own thing. So let me take this quick. So the sectors that were trained, right? You want to know which sector were trained. I think I talked about it. I think I mentioned that you want to. Let me just come around. Just like is this? Okay. Agriculture sector, transport, forestry, energy, and waste. So for waste, they focus on the municipal councils, the MCC, right? I think Carlos and the rest of the guys want to put a train, right? Yeah. Okay. So agricultural sector, I know we have Yoko, say Yoko, but he's not saying he's not in America, he's not even here. And then we have one Ketura, she's not even here. And then for forestry sector, I know, just mention a few names. There's more than 10 of them also. For forestry sector, I know someone like Chief Konake was trained as well on CDRT 1. And for transport, I think Sherman. Upper Sherman and so forth. Those are a few things I'm mentioning. But those are the key sectors that were trained. And then the University of Liberia. Let us take this. University of Liberia is academia, it's not a sector. Those are the trained. And then there was another question. So those are the sectors that was trained on the CBRT 1. And then we clearly saying that what CBRT 2 will achieve will be to increase the sectors to up to 9, to include all the other entities, to allow the NTC sectors, right? That's the strategy that we carry forward to ensure that other sectors are included. Did I answer all your question or?
No, the question was not in terms of those that were trained. Like I'm talking about the mapping. For example, you talk about the transport and you focus on the issue of transport. But when you look at the issue of transport in terms of transportation itself is that you have roads, you have waterways, you have all of those things. Do you consider the mapping like in terms of the airport, the seaport, like those emissions that enter into the country? How do we do those training apart from the reporting? Like like going above gets the name that, for example, if you talk about energy, I want to hear you talking about Ministry of Mines and Energy. But we have the RREA as component of the energy sector also that are trying their possible best in terms of the solar panel installations and all of those things. So these are all sector actors that are within that whole broader sector. Like for example, there are fragmentations in Liberia. When you talk about waste, you go both as solid or liquid waste in terms of the wastewater treatment plants and all of those things. These sectors that are involved in the waste. Like in terms of lesson learned, do we capture those sectors as well? Like how do they fall in part of it? Just focusing on just the overhead. That's what I was asking about.
Let me come in there. Ministry of Mines and Energy. We are the sector lead. Exactly. Any information you want when it comes to energy, it comes to the Ministry of Mines and Energy, will give it to you. So RREA reports to the Ministry of Mines and Energy. LDC report to the Ministry of Mines and Energy. LPRC report to the Mines and Energy. And LPRA, NUCA, every one of them report to the Ministry of Mines and Energy. So when it comes to that, that's why we are the sector lead. That's why we were number one in terms of reporting for phase 1, and we are here again, and we are going to become number 1 again.
Last vote here.
I think I will transport, all the
Thank you very much. Before I go further, I would like to take this time to say thank you to the team at the EPA, because as we speak, the water sanitation and hygiene sector has been earmarked to be incorporated in the NDC. That is on adaptation, especially for cross-cutting. So we want to say thank you to the team from EPA and those that were part of the exercise. From the National Water Sanitation and Hygiene Commission, we say we are very grateful for that. Well, my concern is maybe slightly in line with what my colleague was also talking about. So for the lesson learned from the CBRT 1, we also want to know what are some of the plans, because there are other institutions or other sectors that are still not part of the NDC, for example. So maybe for the CBRT2, what is the plan in incorporating those institutions? It might be on a specific sector, but there's need that we also reach out to them, because if, for instance, we are the regulatory arm or the water sector lead for the water sanitation and hygiene sector in Liberia. So if there's any training, we are also the eye to make sure that those sectors that we oversee, that will have the responsibility to regulate them, are also part of the process. So being the lead doesn't mean you should only seek your interest almost every time. So it's the question of how can we also spread out this training across the various lines of the agency, even as we are lead, to make sure that they are incorporated. I think that's the point.
Since I have the microphone, and let me just take up my MC hat and just make a point as the lead on freshwater ecosystem. Thank you, David, for the presentation. As you may be aware, Liberia is currently revising her nationally determined contribution, and as such, freshwater is a major sector. Since the CBRT project offers an opportunity to strengthen national MRV systems, integrating freshwater conservation within this CBRT Phase 2 framework will ensure better tracking of nature-based solutions and provide comprehensive environmental data for informed policy making. Having said that, I think it is my hope as the focal point of freshwater, since we are here to design this project, this CBRT Phase 2, we also tailor our intervention in this regard to look at freshwater ecosystem within this Phase 2, because it's critical as a sector in terms of protection and conservation in this regard. So it is my hope that as we design this project, we can look at that critical sector of freshwater to be able to tailor some interventions in that regard as we move toward this CBRT Phase 2. Thank you. It's just that's a point for information to be taken seriously. Thank you. So you can respond to the questions. And then after the response, we can take a coffee break, and then we'll come back and we'll work together.
You don't think you should take this comment?
Yeah, just take this comment and then you just respond. Then we'll go for a coffee break. Yes. Commerce.
Welcome, everyone. From what you taught, looking at the lesson learned, looking at phase 1 of the project, not much was said or done in line with the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, specifically the visibility of industries within the project. If you were to note, you could see that the sector, all of the sector mentioned, you don't have industry. And it is fair enough that industry having had something to do with cars and also chemicals, they play a key role in terms of the nationally determined contribution data relevant to the country. So as such, going forward, we want you to specifically and critically look at industry and have it as a focus in terms of promoting data collection for the nationally determined contribution. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well taken. The only reason why industry was not included because previously industry was not a part of the sectors in nationally determined contribution. In 2015, the NDCs only reflected 5 sectors: energy, waste, transport, forestry, agriculture. But it now provides the perfect window for the inclusion of industry into the conversation. So that is well taken. So as the NDC evolves, probably the next generation of NDCs, with the inclusion of new sectors, it gives us an added opportunity to be able to include other sectors. But obviously, industry is quite critical and vital.
Yeah, please. Thank you, Director, for the response.
Yes, maybe just to add on what Ato said, and that's why you were invited. Commerce Mission was invited to show that clearly you are a data holder, so to be part of the process going forward. So that's why, in fact, in plenary, when I come up with the guidelines for what we're doing, you will see clearly the opportunities to see how commerce is becoming. But again, our NDCs, I understand. Back to the question of why RREA, last time I office, why you have all the events data and why commission and so forth. Why are they not in the NDC part of the NDC, and then how can we do them? Now, I'm hearing reminding me of a freshwater ecosystem. The last time I checked, UNDP also wanted Charles Wright to be part of the NDC and so forth. But we also have to be very careful because we have to focus on the NDC GAG sectors. Sorry, that's what I'm going to say. The GAG sectors, because this is the capacity building initiative for transparency for reporting under the ETF. We're really focusing on the transparency element. Like I tell police, our NDC should have tell police, we develop this, that our NDC is really mitigation focused because we think about reducing GHG emission, right? That's the 4%. So we're looking at sectors that are directly contributing to and can directly reduce those emissions. So in that case, we can't pick all of the sectors. We have to focus on the GHG sectors according to the focus on the GHG sectors. And that's what this is really about. That's where the capacity building is about. There are other provisions for policy measures and actions.
Very quickly, please. Thank you. Thank you. I know where you're going, but sometimes we need to be very critical on looking at those adaptation measures with mitigation co-benefits. Because if you look at restoration of of wetlands, right? There's a mitigation co-benefit associated with that in terms of issue of carbon sequestration and all of that. So while we go through this, we have to be careful and look at critically those adaptation sectors, but then they have mitigation co-benefits. And that's where, as national focal point for freshwater ecosystem, I'm very clear on this, and we need to make sure that we look at the issue of freshwater from a very critical point of view, because when you protect freshwater ecosystems, right, you have, though there will be adaptation measures, but they also have mitigation co-benefit that will also enhance what we are doing in terms of the transparency framework we are talking about. So it's not just, you cannot put it in the same bracket with child rights. You cannot put, it's disheartening to do that. So we must be very critical and be clear about this kind of intervention. Thank you. Okay.
Welcome again. My name is Cindy Carlo III from MCC, Waste Focus. Okay, I'd like to say this. I was not here this morning when the lesson learned was presented for CBIT 1. But for the waste sector, like what the brother talk about with wastewater, we have medical waste, and the CBIT, they did an alignment of 9 ministries that's supposed to be on the waste sector, and some ministries left behind. We're not supposed to leave some behind, like the MOH, LWSC. Those are lessons that we learn too, because we can't only deal with municipal waste, they leave the wastewater or leave the medical waste alone. So I hope that CBIT will also factor this into their operations.
Is that MOH, huh?
Minister of Health.
The help is already there.
Coming in?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I'm saying CBIT will look at the situation, look at the line ministries for proper, so that they be proactive as we deal with mitigation and adaptations for the sectors.
Okay. LWRC. Thank you. Thank you, Senator Carlo. I just want to get it's one of the serious part of CBIT 1, the Ugandan train.
Rabba, who just get? Hello, Rabba.
Hello.
Yes, I'm sure you followed the conversation.
Yes, I'm listening and following the conversation. Actually, thank you very much. I am excited about the questions being asked, and I think they are very informative to us. We are making notes, and I'm particularly happy with the gentleman who asked about the CBIT training for sector-wide RRDA there. Could this be part of the training? What are the inspections in the sector? And I thought that was very informative for us, and that's one of the reasons actually for this consultation workshop. And so I was busy noting down, and unfortunately I missed where somebody could not say. Maybe next time we have that. If somebody says which institution, so that you know the context within which that question is coming from, because it would help us align the trainings per sector institutions. And on this note, actually, maybe I would use this opportunity now that you have given me to say something. I want, first of all, thank the people who have asked some questions. One was the concern on the lessons learned on Civic 1. What are the plans under Civic 2? Include private sector and other sectors. I think that's a very, very precisely. Nice question. And it helps us open up to know that one of the focus areas we should emphasize in CB2 is to look at what other institutions are aligned to contribute to measuring greenhouse gases and helping to operationalize the MRV. And from that question, my mind already went to expanding to say, okay, I think this is going to be a nice idea that during maybe group discussions, we can have specific information about what are the key private sector institutions in Liberia that are involved in the GHG sectors. Whether they are aligned, I just don't know how Liberia is structured, but I know from most African countries that each private sector institution or civil society institution is aligned with a particular ministry within the sector. It is not in the ministry, but aligned within that hub. So, when we are looking at each of the sector hubs, there will be a placement for each of those institutions that are supposed to benefit or be involved in the capacity building programs. Because that would be the best way that the training will be spread out, and we have many more stakeholders that will contribute to quality data inputs, the MRA, and that will also be leveraging the mandated institutions in collecting some of the data. So I think we have an opportunity when David lets us go into the discuss component by component, then we will know which institution follows where. And then the person, the guy who asked about what about the industrial sector, and I know we have been discussing this within the GAL team and how it is structured within Liberia, where IPPU is and what are the key institutions under the hubs for the industry. In some countries, this falls under energy and transport. In others, it falls under the industry itself or trade. So we just need to align that, whether it is under the Ministry of Works or under industry, and we have the subsections from which we can have the net for training spread wide. I know that David will give out a table, because we got a table, and this is the time to actually mention that it would be nice for each of the sector institutions to indicate the potential departmental units or sector agencies that could actually be involved in the training in that table, so that we will know and evaluate which sector could have been left out. And for me, this is a very good starting point for us to start saying, okay, out of the target, maybe even if we're targeting 450, maybe they could be 460, or maybe they could be 300, based on where the sectors make suggestions on the possibilities for their training and involvement. The wider we spread the net on this, maybe be the most sustainable in future, so that even if there is turnover and people leaving particular institutions, we will be able to be still having capacity to feed into our MRV from whichever institution they want to. So I think that's very good for me from my side where I start from. And I was so impressed with a guy from, I think it was the city council, saying we need to also follow up with that, because under waste is a hub, so to speak. And therefore under that hub, there must be specific institutions or agencies or council areas which fall under that hub. So it would be a nice thing for the EPA as a coordinating agency, that in each of the hubs there is somebody who has the capacity to generate quality data and is able to use the protocols. So it's of great interest that during this national workshop, we tap into the presence of these people to suggest the different sectors so that by the end of the 3-4-year project, we have the adequate capacity to ensure that there is continuous quality reporting to the ETF requirement. So that therefore means that we may have, after the plenary general questions, to quickly before we break for lunch, to have maybe half an hour or something group work discussion so that we get the details, and in those group work as we discuss component by component for each group, we could also look at the table of the potential stakeholder agent units that may benefit from the training in the next CBIT2. Because we learned as one of the lessons that there was still need for capacity building in each of the institutions. So that would be a great way forward. Over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Robert, for that input. And maybe just to comment on the NDC, the structure, just like Liberia, these are the lead institutions. Like, for example, the Ministry of Agriculture lead the agricultural sector, and then they provide sectoral clearances to all actors that are within the agricultural sector, whether it's a private sector entity, whether it's CSO or the local organization. They all get sectoral clearances. Before they operate, they must provide a sectoral clearance. They must get sectoral clearance from the sector lead. And it is also true that the sector lead gets to understand what is happening in that sector. And in terms, because before your permit, your sectoral clearance is reviewed, you have to submit some kind of report or so to the sector lead, so they have an understanding of what you are doing. So I think this structure is similar to what you are speaking to.
Great, thank you. So I think we can have that tapped in during the group work, right?
Yes. So I think that's why dealing with the sector approach, the sector lead approach would be good. And then now the sector leads are also here. The good thing is that we have the key sector leads here, and then they can tell us now what are the institutions under the sectors that will also benefit from the training that will inform data collection, processing, and reporting to the sector lead, and then on to the EPA.
Okay, so we look forward to that, so that by the time we leave out the day, that would have been the major thing to align what each of this sector has, as the sector lead has under them, that would also be very, would express themselves on which of the people would have benefit from capacity. So I think that would be a good idea. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll let you go, and then we continue, but just stay by as well. So, what can we?
Okay, so we'll take the last question, and then we'll go for a coffee break.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for your presentation. So when you were presenting, I saw about policy that were made or that will be made, and I want to know about those policies. What are those policies, and what are the implementation of those policies?
David, you can take that.
So, I'm begging, I want you to clarify for me the question a little bit. I'm already, or there's someone who understands better can clarify to me. He said, what are the policies that was made or that will be made, and how we implement the policy? Okay. So, we have a document, a national document that we call the NDC. our nationally determined contributions. So that document is contributing towards the achievement of the Paris Agreement. So for us to be able, that's the commitment of policy document. So for us to be able to implement that, how we implement it is what CBRT projects have been supporting the government of Liberia to build capacity across the institutions that are responsible to implement our policy. Give them training, give them the skills that are needed to be able to implement and report, not just implementing, but also reporting on it. And that document is called the NDC. That's why you keep hearing talking about the NDC sector, the NDC sector. I don't think I answered your question. Is that okay? Because apart from that point, apart from the...
So policy in the presentation, where is that?
Where is
She says she saw policy in the presentation.
policies and measures.
So I think at this point, right, we can have bilateral going coffee break, right? So I urge that we go for coffee break, and then we can come back. We can have, will not be good to stay between us and break. So we can give it an opportunity that we coffee break, we open room for bilateral, right? Then we can come back. Thank you very much.